So a survey of another interesting property. In this case, it's a recent purchase. The property had been damp proofed against rising damp. There's dampness in the center of the property, and I was asked to investigate the root cause of the dampness. So have a listen to the survey. There's moisture on the floor there, and then we're going up. I think that's very relevant. Bathroom was put in a year before you bought.
Yes, it's probably about 2.5 years ago.
This is something really. So that's the pipe. Oh, there's a crack there. Oh, no, it's not cracked. So, we're looking underneath. Looking here. You can see this pipe is going upwards. It's very damp underneath it. As a general rule, if there's moisture around a pipe, there's a good chance there's a leak. In this case, we have a flexible pipe. They are at increased risk of being punctured. And I think that's the root cause of your leak and water on your internal walls. So it looks like the seal has perished here. I mean, it doesn't smell great, but it's also running uphill, which is not good. Could be just a case of getting a plumber to fix it, you know. I mean, if you're going to replace it anyway.
Yeah. So the building work probably won't start on this part.
So I think it's a pretty open and closed case, actually, of the waste being the cause of the problem.
Yeah. And so why would it? Because if the other side of the wall, you'd think that, in my layman's opinion, I would have thought that it would be damp up if the water's falling here, but the bottom bit is not damp, it's in the middle of the wall.
I'll investigate. I mean, I agree with that,
Yeah.
but it may be that it's been damp-proofed in the past, or there may be other reasons.
Oh, I wonder if they did that as part of the...
to try and stop the problem being visible without dealing with the root cause.
Yes, I mean, that based on other things that we found, I would be surprised.
They're identical for every property. It is damp all the way down. But it may not be showing there because it may have been damp proofed. I mean, it's difficult to tell, but it does look. This looks like an impermeable surface on top of a permeable bonding below.
So, out of interest, we were told this was. I think Lucy already said we were told this was fixed when we bought this, but I don't think we have the right. Do you have an idea of kind of liability or anything?
So, if it's been damp proofed, you typically get a guarantee against rising damp. But since the problem isn't rising damp, the guarantee has no benefit. And I've never come across a property where the guarantee has been effective. I mean, sometimes they'll come back and look at things, but generally they'll quote more money to do greater damp proofing treatment. But you don't have a risk of rising damp here. In London, you have minimal risk of rising damp anyway, but you're on a hill. Rising damp is from groundwater, and every wall would be affected, not just the central walls. So
what would you class this as? Sorry,
a leak.
Just a leak.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Theoretically, there's a risk of condensation, which looks just like a leak. But if I put my finger on that, I can see it's condensation on there. But that could just be from the leak, as opposed to condensation forming on there and then causing leak-like symptoms. So essentially, it could theoretically be condensation, but from what I've seen of the drain, basically the drain is going up rather than down. So if you look at that white pipe, that's going. In order to make a wet room style floor, the waters had to be pumped upwards, and you say that it takes a long time to drain, and that would be why.
Yeah, and I just remember it was a few months.
The reason why these damp meters are great is because you do surface, but here the surface is dry. whereas it's damp there, which is higher up. But what you want to do is you want to flick it onto the radio frequency, and then this measures deep within the wall, and you see it's 100% there.
Oh wow.
So it's 100%, meaning that it's as saturated as it can get. But I wouldn't worry too much about the percentage. What you want to do is look for the percentage to come down. It won't come down until the problem's fixed, until the leak is dealt with.
And then if we get a plumber,
Staining there, which is a sign that the water is passing through building material. It can be a much darker, redder stain, particularly if there's timber involved. But that staining will potentially persist for 6 to 9 months. But you can use a stain block, but you may have to reapply it.
I think.
Yeah.
We're getting all the work done.
So from a purely structural perspective, is there a problem with dampness in walls? No.
oh really?
Not at all. At least when you don't have timber involved, and here you don't have timber because you don't have a suspended timber floor. You have minimal risk of mould. I mean, obviously, if you've got water coming into a property and it's not been dealt with, you have an increased risk of mould. But it's no worse than drying a t-shirt continuously. And if you've got dehumidifier running, I mean, arguably you should have a better one, but even so.
I thought that was more than
Yeah,
enough,
we got
that
the
one.
which.
But is that
You want a 10 litres per day dehumidifier.
as in takes out 10 litres a day?
Well, capacity in hot countries. This one is 12 litres, but 20 is really what you're looking for.
Okay.
Because you need to have a decent one to remove sufficient vapour coming from A, your dampness, and B, your drying clothes or any other thing. I'll have a look at the extractor fan. But no, damp wall is not a bad thing. I mean, if you think of the outside of a wall, it's constantly getting damp and it's drying out. It's designed to do that. You want to avoid spalling, which is where you get frost damage, but you're not going to get that on an internal wall. But a damp wall is not a bad thing per se, so long as you know what's causing it and you're going to deal with it. It's really causing decorative spoiling.
In terms of
which is aesthetics.
I guess it's like is there anything respiratory for
Like
us? though?
lungs,
Just keep your vapor levels low. I mean, your vapor levels are relatively high, so keep them low. But actually, ironically, it's less the mold that you get, and I don't see signs of it. It's more the dust mite colonies that you get. The dust mites cause allergic reaction, and you'll get it in the same environment, and it will grow on carpets. So lots of vacuuming, lots of turning beds over regularly, stuff like that. See my other reports, you'll see a lot more detail on it. But it's not the mold per se, and I don't see it anyway. You're less likely to get an internal environment, but you are likely to get dust mites on the carpet.
I am allergic to dust mites, and I do have random attacks where I cannot stop sneezing all day. So
well, I was sneezing, wasn't I, when I came in? I mean, that's not to say I think it's been done well. It's just I went. So that's dry and that's damp. So it's interesting that there is actually dampness around. There's condensation on there. It's running about half what it should do, but it's better than nothing. And it's light operated. So there's a long vent, which means that there's a lot of flow loss, but it seems to be okay. Pretty good condition up here. So this here is bonding,
Right.
which is wet, bonding is like the plaster that you put on, but I'm sort of guessing it never dried. Normally when it sets, it looks light like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm guessing it just never set. It's just always remained wet, and this damp proofing material has just been put on top of it.
Yeah.
It always feels quite warm under here.
The heating runs under there.
Interesting. I was about to put the thermal image on it. Yeah, so
I think you can feel the pipes just.
So this is a thermal imaging camera. So
Oh wow.
interesting to see where you're.
Oh, so the radiator's on, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got all the windows open. We should probably turn those on.
Yeah. I mean, it can. You can see there's some heat loss there, which is probably because the vapor's drying out and it's causing heat loss. There was no mains water leak. There is a potential for a heating system leak. There's a very small top up that's required every so often. I can't totally exclude it, but it seems very clear that the water is around the waste pipe. So, that is the most likely cause. So in summary, the root cause of the dampness in this property, we can say with very strong conviction, is the waste from the shower. It's in the center of the property. The dampness is all near to it. There is a possibility of condensation forming in the cold pipe behind the void, but that seems to be condensation from the leak rather than the condensation forming leak-like symptoms. The rising damp, or the rise of dampness, it isn't strictly rising damp. Rising damp only comes from groundwater. All water rises, and in this case, it's the centre of the property that has the damp wall, and obviously the treatment makes no difference to it. So have a look at the other surveys. You'll see comparative properties, other causes. Thank you.